You guys have been asking, I've been promising, and it's been a very, very slow process getting to this point. Why? I don't know, maybe because I got 4 kids and I just moved states. Anyway, here we are. I'm going to tell you why we moved now that it's awkwardly overhyped. So without further ado, in order to explain to you why we actually moved, I have to go back to the beginning of the timeline. Jordan and I got married in 2015. We honeymooned in Queensland. And while we were there, we had multiple conversations about how we would love to raise our kids in a place like this. So moved back to Tassie, we get on with life. We spend a year saving up all of our money. We buy our first house. We spend years renovating that first house. And we had Solly in the meantime. Then we finished that house and kind of always had in the back of our heads, one day we'll move to Queensland, one day. Then we get to 2020 and we end up buying our second property. We then begin again this saga of a renovation. So by this point, we are in our second house, we're doing our renovations, we have another child, and we also buy another block of land. We finish the renovations, we decide to put up our second house up on the market. We sell the house and we spend a 1-month holiday in Queensland. This was a sneaky little trip for us to decide, do we definitely want to move now that we've got 2 kids, we've got a family, is this where we want to be? So we spend a month in Queensland. The first week we spent in the Gold Coast. Then after that we moved up to the Sunshine Coast. We had heard about this infamous Sunshine Coast and then it was very different to the Gold Coast, but being that we had only been to the Gold Coast, that's all we could picture. So we wanted to know, what was this place? We bypass Brisbane City and we go up to the Sunshine Coast and we stop at all of the towns over the next 3 weeks. Mooloolaba, Coolum, Peregian, Noosaville, Taunton, Maroochydore, Alexandra Headland, like all those places. We also by this point had family that coincidentally had moved up there too, so they were able to show us around the place much better than if we had just gone ourselves. We fall in love with the Sunshine Coast. We are absolutely adamant that this is where we're moving to. Not still sure on exactly which town. So fast forward, we get back to Tassie. We're waiting for our new build to start on our block of land. Now we had a conversation mid-2021. Do we want any more children? Because I do not want to be pregnant in the summer, hot humidity in Queensland. Like, I love the heat, but not when I'm pregnant. I'd rather get one out now while we're building before we move. So it was decided, we both agreed that we wanted to get our last child out of the way before the big move. Well, the joke's on us. We most certainly did get that one child out of the way and we got another one. We never expected that we would get twins, which then started to change the way that we looked about moving away. We had the twins in 2022. At this point, the build was still happening very, very slowly. We were crammed into our first house. So we waited for our tenants to move out and then we moved back in. When I tell you that having the twins and going through this last year and a half has been the hardest time in our lives, I can't even begin to explain. Our mental health just went down the drain, and honestly, we completely gave up on the idea of moving to Queensland. We felt like we were in such a survival mode that we couldn't possibly ever have this for ourselves. Our dream was crushed. Don't get me wrong, we loved having the children. We knew it was going to be so worth it. It was really difficult after having these years of building up and then having that holiday where we really decided that we're going to do it, and then have something like this, a massive curveball, come into the picture. It was really hard when you've already decided what you're going to do. As much as we love them, we suffered through the first year with the twins, and then suddenly they got way easier. They can hold their own bottles, they're sleeping through the night, you can distract them with food, they're going to childcare. And then we started to have these little thoughts, maybe we can move to Queensland, maybe we can have our dream life, maybe we can live in hope again. But we hadn't really done more than just chat about the fact that it feels possible again. Then we get to the winter time in 2023 and I get 3 texts from my husband when he's at work because he's a tradie. Day 1, my fingers are freezing off. Text 2, it's -2 degrees. Text 3, why do we live here? I am so cold. This just makes me laugh. Now that the possibility of moving to Queensland felt real again, it made the winter time even harder. We sat down, we had a realistic conversation on what it would look like to move to Queensland. 4 children, 2 houses here. What do we do with the house that we've just built, this brand new beautiful house? I have to explain. We decided that this house is our last hope. And if it's not right, then we know we just need to move. We realized that our dreams were still very much sitting there, and we sat down and we actually wrote a timeline, and we decided that if we didn't have a deadline, it was never going to happen. We said about February, March 2024, we would be moving. We knew that our deadline was flexible. We booked the boat because we had to book the boat months in advance, and we knew that, again, if we need to change that, we could, but let's just have something to work towards. So we ended up working really hard to get our house finished, all our landscaping finished, all the little finishing touches inside, fully furnish it because we had planned to make it an Airbnb. 1 to 2 months ahead of schedule. Turns out we move in January. The reason for this is that it just aligned the best with school and rentals and childcare. We moved to Queensland with 1 trailer and 1 car full of our stuff, with no house, which I'm going to talk about in the next video that I do. We just send it. I think Tasmania is beautiful. There are so many opportunities there. We are very, very grateful for the opportunity that Tasmania gave us growing up. Tasmania has so many beautiful landscapes, waterfalls, mountains. Like, if you want to do and see beauty in its raw state, Tasmania is the perfect place to go. Tasmania is also very seasonal, so if you like the seasons, if you like the rain, if you like the weather changing all the time, then it's also great. Now that you know the timeline, what reasons did we actually have to pick up our whole family and move them so far away? We have 4 kids. We can't holiday very often with them because they're all so little. It's going to take years before that becomes an enjoyable thing. Yeah, we could do it, but it wouldn't be fun for us. We decided that if we can't holiday often, why not live in a holiday destination? A big thing as well was the weather. We loved the warm weather, loved the idea of raising our kids by the beach. Like I said, we talked about for the 9 years before we moved. We wanted our kids to go and do little nippers. I mean, can you picture anything cuter? What we found is we had been stuck in this crazy cycle of making just the smart decisions, not actually stopping to ask ourselves, what do you want out of life? It was always just, that's a smart decision, let's do that. That's a smart decision, let's do that. We're constantly sacrificing what we want out of life because of the next financial decision. It's robbing us from time with each other, time with the children. We realized that we needed to stop exactly where we were and take a pivot and change our priorities. When you're born and raised in one place and you know so many people and everything's so familiar, it's a really difficult decision to pull your children, pull yourselves away from all of your family and friends. At some point in life, you have to just stop thinking about everyone else and you have to look at your own family and go, what is best for my family? And it seemed like a very momentary decision, but it was actually this long build up and it was always the plan. That's a quick summary on why we moved. My next video I'm going to do is going to talk about where we've been living. That is a bit of a crazy story in itself. Thank you for listening. I hope that answers your questions on why we moved. If you want to hear more updates on our life up here, make sure you subscribe to this new channel. Bye.